Hello everyone, I am Taureor and this is my review of Season 1 of Jessica Jones. And there's going to be mild spoilers in this review, but they will be later on and I will warn you. Also, I will have to use still images for this because there's been a lot of copyright claiming going around. Let's get to it. Jessica Jones is a blend of a superhero show with a detective show, which is a great refreshing premise. Unfortunately, the great potential of such a blend is largely wasted due to everything that is wrong with the script. Still, we will talk about that later. First, let's get a general feel. So I said it's a hybrid of superhero and detective. It's exactly done in a way that the main character, Jessica Jones, the dark-haired lady in the picture that you see, is a private investigator with super strength. And the superhero aspect doesn't really come into play that much, which is good. It's not overused. And in general, I think this show is worth watching if you're a superhero fan, or just like some innovation in your TV, or you really like David Tennant. We'll get on to him in a moment. And it is largely character-focused. There aren't many pointless fight scenes. Actually, I don't think there are any pointless fight scenes. Remember those Power Rangers shows? At some point, a bunch of gray-skinned dudes showed up and they were like, and they fought them for no reason. Not no reason, but there was no story in it. It was just pointless fight filler, and I personally don't like that. In this show, there isn't anything like it. Alright, now let's move on to the tone. The cinematography in this is very good. The creators show a dark, bleak, hopeless New York City mainly through the use of lighting and a color palette, and I think this is very well done and fits the theme and the tone of the show perfectly. And if we move on to the plot and the side storylines, they're all okay, although they're full of very convenient coincidences. I can't really fault the creators for that, though. Because it is a common part of any fantasy show, almost any fantasy show, convenient coincidences. And it's so common, and superhero is a fantasy genre, that I really can't say it's a mistake. It's how it is. It's how they make those shows. It's especially apparent in the policeman and mother storylines. I can't really I can't really say anything else without going into spoilers, and we'll do that later. Also, there's a storyline that is basically a segue to Season 2, and I understand they had to put it in, but still it feels very forced. And that's as much as I can say without going into spoilers. Let's move on to secondary characters. We have... all of them are basically fine. They're well acted, well developed. There isn't really much trouble with them. The characters of Trish, Hope, I think it was Jerry, Pam, they're all fine. And Will, oh right, his name was Will, I forgot that. I opened the cast page just to make sure I don't forget anyone. The side characters are fine, they're well developed, they feel okay. Maybe with a small exception of Luke Cage. I should show you the cast. Let me change the picture. Yeah, sorry, doing it live is a bit of a problem, but I do want to retain this unedited feel. You have the cast. Luke Cage, played by Mike Coulter, the second guy from the left. The character doesn't really have an emotional range, I'd say. And I think that is the fault of the direction, not of the actor, because I have seen him in Luke Cage standalone series, and he has a much wider range there. Essentially, he only has four facial expressions. He is either angry, or he's sad, or he's interested in solving the case, or he is attracted to a woman. And those are the four facial expressions that Luke Cage has, nothing else. Again, I don't think that's the actor's fault. I think that's the director's fault, because I've seen Mike Coulter deliver much more than this. But apart from that, the side characters, the secondary characters are all fine. And the strongest part of the series, the best character, hands down, is the villain Kilgrave, played by David Tennant, the guy on the left. You might know David Tennant, he's a fairly beloved actor. He was on Doctor Who. And if you don't know what Doctor Who is, oh boy, there's a lot of fun ahead of you. Anyway, I really like David Tennant. He is wonderful. He is the best part of the series, hands down. And if you're a big fan of his, you should definitely watch this, even though the show has some weaknesses. But if you love David Tennant, you will probably love this show just because he's in it, and he's great in it. He acts very well. He delivers a very natural performance, and his facial expressions are very well done. And he delivers a really creepy, scary villain. He doesn't look the part. He doesn't look like someone who could be a scary, creepy villain, does he? But he really does that wonderfully. I should probably bring up a better picture of David Tennant. I do have one prepared just for that. Just stretch it out a bit. Yeah, that is him. And he does a great job. I can't praise him enough for his work on this. But now that we're past all the nice things about this, let me just bring up the whole cast again. I might want to have a closer look at that. Now that we're past all the good things, it's time to move on to the faults, the weaknesses, the drawbacks of how this was all done. And there are two major faults that I find with the series, which diminished my enjoyment very much. Because the first episode of Jessica Jones is wonderful, and I wanted more, and I was all excited for this for the series. And then, well, it's impossibly stretched, very, very stretched, for no good reason other than, to have it last longer. And the whole main plotline could have been contained in 4 to 6 episodes. In the meantime, I'm trying to see how many episodes there were. I think it was something around 10. Anyway, and the whole main storyline, I suppose we should go into the spoilers now. Yeah, let's go into spoilers now. So you've been warned. The main storyline about Jessica and the main villain Kilgrave could have easily been contained, as I said, in about 4 to 6 episodes. And rather than keep it short and concise, they stretch it out using cartoon tricks. And by cartoon tricks, I mean tricks usually used in cartoons when heroes are fighting the main villain, and then someone makes a mistake, or a Deus Ex Machina moment happens, so, something comes out of nowhere to help the villain, or something like that, and the villain escapes. We almost got him, but he got away. And then we almost got him, but he got away. And this show, Jessica Jones, does exactly that. And for me, that is a major fault, because that just shows us that the writing is kind of lazy. It is lazy writing if you use Deus Ex Machina to have your villain escape. Or, it's acceptable sometimes, but it just feels like a cartoon when the heroes are chasing the bad guy and he always manages to escape somehow. So they should have either shortened the whole thing, and if that's not an option because you want to, have a specific number of episodes in a season, then they should have added more of the detective stuff, because it was pretty good. The detective stuff itself was pretty good. So they could have had more of that. Instead, they just stretched the main story to the point where it didn't really feel all that real, all that plausible. It's a superhero series, but the characters and storylines and their actions still have to feel grounded in reality for it to be enjoyable, at least to me. So, for example, they should have thrown in more detective stuff, more looking for clues and figuring stuff out, and not just, oh, here he is, we almost have him, and then he runs away, which is just lazy. And finally, the biggest fault of the series, the one that really decreased my enjoyment very much, and if it wasn't for it, I might have just liked the series overall. It definitely has good things, but this ruins it for me, mostly. It's the main character. It's Jessica Jones. And to be clear, I don't mean the actress. I don't mean Kristen Ritter. She does a very good job here. And she acts well, especially in the subway scene. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. But I do have a problem with how the character was written, with the script. So basically, the main character, Jessica Jones, is a woman that has been through a lot. She's a damaged character, and some people would throw all their mistakes to that, would attribute all her mistakes to that, to her being damaged and so on. But I believe differently. She's a private investigator. She's a private detective, private eye. Those people are meant to be smart, clever. Mostly, yeah, clever is the best word, I think. Cunning, able to find himself in any situation and find a way out of it, and so on and so forth. And Jessica she lacks common sense to the point of stupidity sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's not only bordering on stupidity, it just goes into stupidity. And because of that stupidity, many people die. I haven't really counted, but I think it was around a dozen people. They die because of her mistakes, and mistakes she could have been avoided if she wasn't acting like an idiot. Her choices are horrible, and the viewer is expected to consider her the hero because her intentions were good. Now, you could argue that she is not meant to be a hero, that she's flawed and so on, black and white, not black and white, but rather shades of grey, yada yada. And that would be a valid argument if it wasn't for the final scene of the final episode of Season 1, which very, very clearly accentuates that she is the hero. At least that is my feeling, but again, reviews are all subjective. Review is essentially my opinion, so that's my opinion. Also, all the side characters, with one exception, believe that Jessica knows best for some reason, and they do what she believes to be the right thing to do. Well, sometimes they question her, but in the end they always do what she wants. And that, in my opinion, is a great fault of the Jessica Jones TV series. If I was using points, like, something out of 10, it would decrease the overall score by a few points, I think. Because it just destroyed all of my enjoyment, basically. I was very invested after episode 1. I thought it was going to be wonderful. And then, Okay, so to sum up, I think this series is worth watching if you are a superhero fan, if you're a Jessica Jones fan, or if you are a David Tennant fan, because he carries the series. Basically, he is the best thing about it, and he really delivers a very, very creepy villain. If you are not a superhero fan, if you're not a Jessica Jones fan, and if you're not a David Tennant fan, then you probably can skip this one, because you won't get much out of it, I think. And that's my review of Jessica Jones Season 1. I hope it was helpful. I adapted a little bit of a different format this time, so let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any arguments for or against my opinions, I would gladly discuss them with you in the comments. That's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.